While I'm getting into the bee yard here, I'm going to test for mites. After I pull honey from my production hive, in late July, early August, I'll actually split it up, put the queen into a nuke box with a couple frames of brood and some thymovar, and the other hives, of course, they'll raise a new queen and force a brood break. Take advantage of that brood break to treat with oxalic acid vapor. I didn't do that with all of my production hives, so I've got a treat because I don't want to be creating a mite bomb. So this, of course, has been one of my very good production hives. I already have taken about 30 frames of honey from it, and I've got a pollen trap on it, so it has been great for pollen, and no dearth to speak of. It hasn't rained in about a week, but they're still finding nectar. Take from another frame here. Still no stings. Surprising, actually. I'd be pissed off. I'm about halfway there. Sorry guys, it's for the greater good. Alright, so we got doing our mite wash here. I will close this up. No varroa in this wash. So this is a frame of drone comb. So the top of the frame was brood, open brood, and the bottom, the bees built out as drone comb, and I just cut this out yesterday actually, and so these drones are actually hatching out, and so I'm gonna be harvesting some of these drone brood to see if I can find varroa. And again, this is on the same hive that I just did a wash on, and the wash was 0 mites. I took some tweezers from my wife. Do not tell her. It is best. So there's number 1. No mites. This is a perfect job for my son. No mites. So as you can see here, it took about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it took about 10 bees for me to find a drone with a mite. I've often thought, so imagine for a second, like, people pay a lot of money for live bait fishing, right? And so what a resource. I mean, so I have enough anecdotal evidence that drone bees are just as good as night crawlers and minnows for live bait. In fact, I'd argue they're better. I think the fish can actually pick up on the drone bee pheromones, and bass will go for them like crazy, and trout will go for them like crazy. I think that's a business opportunity right there. On a Friday before a weekend, on a long weekend, you get your drone comb. So at the same time you're treating for varroa, you're ridding your hive of the varroa, right? You don't need the drones at this time of year. You cut these up, cut those up into little portions, put them in a little box, take them to the bait shop. People pay $10 for that. You just straight out, right? Piece of cake. You wait until they're mature enough and they have a good exoskeleton, but What fish could not resist that? I've got bass, I've got trout, I've got pickerel on drone bees. So maybe there's something there. Maybe could be a small side revenue for you beekeepers. Just find a bait shop and partner up, and you know provide something I've learned. It's finding two ideas that people haven't connected. So you don't need to convince fishermen to blow money. They will blow money on anything. I think more than any other segment, I've never seen people blow more money on stuff they don't need than fishermen. So I think there could be something there. Let me know if you try it, or if you've done it, or if someone's done it. But I think drone bees at your bait shop, I think they would fly off the shelves. I think that could be a worthwhile video, fishing with drones. It could, who knows? Maybe there's something there. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. But anyway, back to varroa. I don't know what I was planning with this video, but look at this comb honey. So we started out, this was basswood and linden, and we worked down, and the bees found some buckwheat, and it is marvelous buckwheat honey, and I'm going to be cutting those and packaging them up and selling some comb honey. Anyway, I drew this out to so this is a year in beekeeping, and so let me kind of go through this. So here we have our spring buildup. A lot of beekeepers, myself included, have been using Apivar coming out of winter. The reason that is it's basically the only treatment that actually can be used in the early spring and in Ontario, right? Temperatures, that's just temperatures dictate this is the only treatment really that works. So myself, I will do, before the honey flow starts, I will do my splits. I'll sell my queens and my nukes. So every hive that I overwinter gets a brood break in the spring, which of course is an opportunity. It in itself is a mite treatment, right? So then we have our honey flow. So in Southern Ontario, we've got a pretty good honey flow, at least where I'm at. It'll go from when the dandelions come up, if the temperatures are right, in the middle of May. And last year, I was getting honey right up to the middle of October, which is pretty fantastic as far as length of a season and the quantity of honey you're actually able to get. Not every year is the same. Of course, there's just so many variables that go into determining that. But the question that a lot of beekeepers struggle with is treating for mites during the honey flow. It's not ideal, but a lot of years it needs to be done. And usually it's in August, around this time, where you start to see some hives crashing if they aren't treated. And so what I've been doing with a lot of my production hives, as I mentioned, I will split them up to force a brood break. Once, before the queen starts laying, I will hit them with an oxalic acid vapor to knock the numbers down. And that's just buying time. That's the whole point, is it's getting through the honey flow. It's keeping the mites. What happens so that, the mites will basically follow a pattern like this, right? And it gets to the point where you have an exponential rise right at the worst time of the year. It's right at the time where the queen bee starts laying the winter bees, and then all of a sudden you have a bunch of sick and infected winter bees full of disease. So in the summer, you're limited in treatments. You can do a brood break, or you can use Formic Pro or formic acid. At least in Canada, is approved for use with honey supers on. So I'm going to be using Formic Pro on my production hives, and the reason for that is I find it's really the only treatment that actually works, and it's powerful, but it will actually kill those mites underneath the cappings. So a lot of beekeepers would love to wait until their honey is off and they're feeding to treat for varroa. Unfortunately, a lot of years it's simply too late, and you've got to treat mid-season. And if you wait too long, your bees are going to get sick. And I see the same thing over and over and over. The story of so many people I sold nukes to. The first question I ask is, well, what happened to your bees last year? Oh, I treated, after I pulled the honey off and they still crashed. So, well, you needed to treat before it became a problem. And that's really what it comes down to. It's a lot easier to keep your bees off the edge, right? So keep them from getting to that point than to bring them back down. It is a lot easier. So that's the choice that you have to make as a beekeeper. So there's this idea that's prevailing that, it's better if we just leave the bees alone and we don't treat them, we go treatment. And I think that this is deeply problematic for a lot of reasons. And, not to step in it, but if you're keeping bees, and this is a big topic and I'm not going to, but if you're keeping bees, I think you have an obligation to all the beekeepers around you to make sure your mite levels don't get out of control. Because I've witnessed several times over the years, beekeepers who just let the mites run wild, and that creates mite bombs that affect all other beekeepers in the area, and it creates a problem for all sorts of people. And so I know all the arguments. I know what people will say. They're gonna, there's this island somewhere off and they stop treating and everything's okay now. And I've heard it all. I've read Seeley, I've read these people. It's, the proof is in the pudding. And how many years now we've been talking about breeding the perfect bee through time, and it hasn't happened. So if you are sick and tired of varroa, there is one last place in North America that has a beekeeping industry and has no mites, has no hive beetles. I think they don't even have wax moths, and that is Newfoundland. And the friendliest place in North America, bar none. They have fantastic blueberry honey. It's not the longest season, but very good honey and wonderful people you should go visit. The provincial government has done a very good job enforcing strict policy, keeping any imported bees out of the province. And Canada as a whole, though, has been pretty stupid. So I don't know if we currently are, but up until I think last year, we were actually importing queens from Ukraine, which is just beyond stupid. Ukraine, of course, is basically bordering Turkey, and Turkey already has the Tropicalaps mite. So, if Tropicalaps, when it comes to North America, it's not if, it's when, it's probably going to come from, as a result of some stupid Canadian policy. Unfortunately, I think things will probably continue to get worse. I'm hoping that we won't have to deal with the Tropicalaps mite anytime soon, but by all accounts, it appears it's on its way. And another unfortunate development. It's interesting. So it's been widely known and talked about, at least among beekeepers that I talk to, that Apivar has been losing its efficacy for a number of years now, and that's been evident. And so relying on Apivar, you can't rely on Apivar. And so I think working brood breaks into the season, and I think it's really going to be the best way forward for a lot of beekeepers. It certainly isn't the best way, certainly for people with shorter honey seasons, but it's part of the balancing act. And as far as I know, beekeepers who are struggling with the Tropicalaps, the only way that they can effectively kill that mite is through formic and brood breaks. And so, it seems we're getting that way already, and so I'm adapting. Anyway, I would be interested to know your thoughts. Just thought I'd lay out what, a year in mite treatments looks like for me. I'm often envious of. I follow a few beekeepers in Newfoundland, and they only have to think about their bees. Isn't that? Wouldn't that be something? Anyway, hope you guys are doing well. I'm gonna work through some hives here, and talk to you soon.